Hey, and welcome to Wild Seat. Hey, do you remember that job, Mark, who acted like a detective in the concrete jungle of Los Angeles? Well, his girl Rose passed away, and the dude succumbed to a life of ruin and damn alcohol. But life didn't let up. The station called him because Trent, his kid, got into a brawl. Mark manages to spring Trent, thanks to the good vibes from Officer Garcia, who convinces the other boy not to press charges. But between Mark and Trent, things are tense. Especially after the kid finds out his dad spent their cash on booze instead of gas for the car. Damn Mark, can't really help him. They hustled on the subway, and on the way Trent tossed a few coins to a blind homeless man, Sarge. There, as the train moved on, Mark was fiddling with Rose's ring and Trent told him about the fight. It was like a break in the middle of the storm, but oh boy, all of a sudden the train stops and bam! A blue light begins to shine in the sky. Audrey, a girl who works at the subway, gossips to Mark that there's a blackout and they lost cell signal. Then they feel a tremor, and over the radio a real creepy message comes out. Don't look at the lights. The train shakes again, and they decide to get the hell out of there. As they proceed, they start to hear cool noises coming from above. Meanwhile, good old Garcia comes out of the bathroom and finds a station emptier than my heart on Valentine's Day. Only Officer Jones is there. They both stay looking at the light, just like everyone else, except for Sarge, who can't see a thing. Mark, Trent, and the others arrive at the station and try to figure out how to get out of this mess. A woman, desperate to reunite with her family, tries to surface, and Trent follows her to convince her to come back, but the light catches up to them and burns half of their faces. Mark sees this, closes his eyes, grabs Trent, and as the light turns into a beam that takes people away, he shields his boy. Opening his eyes, Mark sees a damn gigantic spaceship. Later, Mark and Trent return to the subway. They find Audrey, Garcia, Jones, and Sarge, and decide to go back into the tunnels to find a way out. Garcia passes a gun to Mark for protection. They walk all night and find stairs with a window, and see the Air Force attacking the ship. Finally, Jones manages to connect his radio and calls for help, but they ignore him because they're going to bomb the city, regardless if there are still people alive. Now things got really crazy. Can you imagine? The alien spaceship knocks out the Air Force like they're flies, and when bombs and planes start falling, the tunnel begins to collapse and everyone around starts running. Those who couldn't run in time, well, let's just say they're not with us anymore. They encounter a hole in the roof, thinking they were finally free. But guess what? An alien bug shows up to bother them. The bug eats Garcia, and then lights up to pull in Trent. Mark shoots it until the bugger stops moving. He rescues Garcia, who, to his surprise, could breathe inside the monster. Jones starts theorizing that the aliens want them alive and kicking. But just then, the bug wakes up, grabs Jones, and sucks his brain out. Mark shoots at the bug again so the others can escape, but the alien catches him by the legs. Luckily, Audrey had an emergency flare and throws it to Mark, who uses it to scare off the bug. Mark sticks the flare into a gas tank of a car that fell into the hole, and when the bug goes after them, the car explodes and sends it packing. When they come out, they see the ship releasing a gigantic alien behind them. They run, but the bug is about to catch up. Garcia stays behind to buy some time, but his bullets do nothing, and the alien grabs him with a tentacle. Mark, Trent, Audrey, and Sarge see helicopters and try to get their attention, but the giant blocks their way and knocks down the helicopters. The lights from the ship start to take the group, but since they can't handle Sarge, the bug picks him up with its hand. The giant goes back to its ship, and there they find out that this bug is a robot controlled by a human-sized alien. The alien wipes out the United States and directs the ship to other places. Meanwhile, Mark wakes up in a room full of bodies and alien snot. There's another bug there, also a robot, collecting brains. Mark dodges the tentacles looking for Trent, and when he shoots at the robot, the alien captain detects him and activates the beam again. All the bodies are taken except Mark, who the robot grabs by the head to try and remove his brain. Mark shoots at the tentacle and falls into a stream of water that is being ejected from the ship. Poor guy nearly face-planted if it wasn't for his leg getting caught on the railing like he was playing hopscotch, and that hurt more than biting into a saltless lemon. He gets up and discovers they're stuffing human brains into robots like tamales. Only tamales don't shoot you, of course. The only live bug there was the captain, and you can't even begin to understand how bad he was. Mark moves ahead casually, encountering half-rotten bodies and eggs hanging like ceiling lamps. But with a surprise, eh? A tentacle robot jumps on him, but his friend Jared, with his eyes as red as a sunset, saves his bacon. Just then, more enemies appear than soccer fans at a classic game. Mark follows Jared, who, between runs, tells him he's looking for his son. Not content with saving him, Jared fixes Mark's leg like a tribal shaman and then introduces him to his wife, Elaine. The poor woman was 3 months pregnant and about to give birth. It seems that seeing the light made her pregnant, and her husband Jared got stronger every time he saw her, like she was his own Popeye. When the aliens put Jared's brain into a robot, the guy kept his personality. Let's just say he was more saved than a goal in the 90th minute. In the blink of an eye, Elaine gave birth to a healthy girl but died in the attempt. A story sadder than a soap opera, I swear. Now Jared commits to helping Mark find Trent, but in exchange, Mark has to get the little girl out of the ship. They didn't even notice that the baby could make her eyes glow red, like a flashlight. Meanwhile, Trent and Audrey wake up and they're hung like peppers on a string. Trent pulls a flare out of his pocket like pulling an ace out of the sleeve and cuts his vine. He grabs Audrey and throws her down the stairs, then jumps himself, He's not going to stay up to see what happens. But they meet Sarge, also hung up like a sausage. After Jared and Mark leave, the captain finds Elaine dead and starts looking for the baby. Jared leads Mark to the armory and gives him an alien weapon, which connects to the nerve cells in his arm, like a plug. Then he starts planting bombs all over the ship, like it's a night of fireworks. Just then, the captain shows up. So Jared sends Trent to the vine room and stays to fight with the captain, like a boxing match. In the vine room, Mark sees Trent jumping from vine to vine as if he were in an amusement park. Then he starts to rescue Sarge, swaying more than a drunk on stilts. With one last sway, Trent manages to free Sarge while Mark leaves the baby and dashes upstairs, as if chased by the devil, to offer his hand to Sarge just before the vine breaks. Well, things get uglier than stealing candy from a child. Poor Trent wasn't so lucky. Those damned robot tentacles dragged him and left him drier than a tequila without lemon. Audrey also got caught, but our hero Mark threw himself like a pro wrestler, and with an alien blade slash, bam, he freed her. And the robot, which fell on Mark, also got its fair share. Meanwhile, the captain beats Jared up and leaves him lying there. But Jared is smarter than red mice and surprises him with the bomb in hand. The captain goes to the vine room and Mark tries to stop him, but the blade goes out like a candle in the wind, and the captain goes after the baby. Sarge intervenes and gets hurt, while Audrey picks up the baby. Just when the captain turns around to go after Audrey and Mark, Jared activates the bombs and the ship explodes. Boom! They land in Laos. What a trip, eh? The Sua and Kanya brothers who were out there doing their cartel things. See it all. While Sua takes out one of the cops trying to stop the alien robots, Officer Juana manages to destroy one with a flamethrower, as if he were at a barbecue. Then they approach the ship and find one of those alien eggs, which Kanya keeps as if it were a lucky charm. Mark, Audrey, and the baby survive thanks to sticky alien mucus. Sarge also survives, although he has a hard time with his wound. They leave the ship by jumping into the river, as if they were on an extreme vacation. But the captain also wakes up and starts making more robots with human brains. And one of them is Trent, who has a flashback and then gets programmed like a new cell phone. Later, on the riverbank, they run into the brothers. They start to argue. Sarge bites the dust and Sua, feeling guilty, takes them to his camp. There, Audrey changes the baby, which is growing faster than a country's debt. When Mark goes to wash his hands, Kanya finds out that Mark is a cop and attacks him. And there the big trouble starts. Mark and Sua start fighting, while Kanya and Audrey fight over the baby. Just at that moment, Juana appears with more police, and the fights are interrupted to make a plan. Mark promises to help if Sua takes them to a doctor for the baby, and thus a truce is formed. Sua leads the group with the stealth of a feline through the minefields. When night falls and they set up camp, Mark drops the bomb. In reality, there was only one true alien in the ship. He starts to philosophize about whether the humans inside the robots could be freed, like Jared did. Then, Mark gets sentimental and shares with Audrey his memory of Rose. With the first rays of dawn, Mark is abruptly awoken by Juana, but Sua, faster than lightning, saves Mark's life by shooting at Juana without killing him. He's about to finish him off, but Audrey stops him. Then she rushes to see the baby, who has grown tremendously overnight. They decide to move on and take Juana as a prisoner. They reach an ancient temple where the cartels have set up their hideout. They lock Juana in a cell and take the child to Dr. Harper, who confirms he has a high fever. Mark is in a dilemma about whether he can trust this place. Sua assures him that the refuge was built during the war to protect themselves from American attacks, and that if they survived that, they could also withstand the aliens. Harper drops another bomb. The child is not human. Kanya, terrified, runs out forgetting her bag, allowing Harper to discover the egg. He tries to take the child away, thinking he is an enemy, but the group stops him. Mark tells him about the experiments he saw and explains that the child is also a victim. Harper explains that the child's accelerated growth is depleting his body and that he is about to collapse. He needs a blood transfusion, but he doesn't believe any of them are compatible. Mark shows him his arm and tells him about the weapon that was connected to him, so they decide to test with his blood. The next day, the child is perfectly fine and has grown even more. Using the egg that Kanya found, Harper conducts more tests and discovers that the blue light controlling their brains is biologically compatible with human DNA. He supposes that the aliens planted humans on Earth as a crop and return every few millennia to harvest. But they didn't account for evolution. With the egg and the child's blood, Harper creates a serum to put it in the light cannon. The modified light will free all the robots from mind control. The group starts to prepare for the looming battle, with Audrey and Kanya heading out to set up some traps. Just at that moment, the captain sends a giant robot to attack Audrey. There's our heroine Kanya setting a trap, right? But it seems like these aliens are tough cookies. Their extraterrestrial gadget isn't even phased. Kanya says to herself, "No way," and starts to hassle the alien with some well-aimed shots, venturing into the minefield as if it were a stroll in Chapultepec. The creature, in a daze, follows her and bam, falls into the trap, more accurately the mine. Did it cause a lot of damage? It doesn't even flinch, brother. Things get wild when Kanya, with her last breath, steps on a mine on purpose. In a melancholic mood, she grabs her radio and says goodbye to her brother. As the robot approaches her, she lifts her foot and boom, she takes the robot with her, like they're Romeo and Juliet but in a Terminator version. The explosion reveals our protagonist's location, and the enemy captain orders the ship to head towards the temple. Here, Mark suggests they run, but Sua, who's tougher than a bull, says they'll defend the tunnels to the death. Mark risks playing the hero of the movie, and tries to put the serum in the cannon while the others keep the alien busy. The gang starts to set up traps, and Mark, with a heart of gold, leaves the kid with the civilians. He jumps out of the hideout just in time, before the robotic invasion begins. There are plenty of explosions, and our guys finish the job with a few bullets. Sua goes into Rambo mode and is about to start a fire at the entrance, but a surprise alien gets into the tunnel, as if it were his home. He takes out several, until he runs into Sua, who welcomes him with a flare. With so many casualties, Sua releases Juana and tells him to fight too. After that, they start to exit through a hidden tunnel like rats. On the other hand, our hero Mark is spying, looking for a way to enter the ship through a back door. He remembers what Jared did, opens a tunnel in the wall and reaches the cannon room, as if it were the last level of a video game. The cannon tries to control those who are leaving, but everyone remembers to close their eyes. Well, everyone except a girl who can defend herself by making her eyes glow red like a Marvel superhero. The gang fires a rocket at the light to destroy it, but just when they think the party is over, another giant robot appears, with the captain at the controls, ready to smash the place. Watch out, things get rough. Now, everyone starts to throw punches against the giant robots, as if it were some kind of hardcore science fiction soap opera. When a robot tries to take Audrey and the little girl down, there's Harper, the martyr, the badass who saves them with his life. Mark, meanwhile, starts to dance with one of the guards on the ship, and Rose's ring falls from his hand. The guard starts looking at the ring and begins to falter. Then Mark realizes it's Trent, who is still partially under alien control. so he has to send him down to the lower level immediately. Our hero grabs one of the eggs from those vines, injects it with the serum, and throws it into the light beam. Yay! The light changes from blue to red and Trent regains his memory. But before the light touches the others, the alien captain uses his giant robot to shatter the beam cannon. Mark jumps from the ship and finds a shattered robot. Right there, he takes its sword to join the heat of the battle. Along with Sua and Juana, they fight the robots to protect the girls. The captain arrives with his giant robot, but suddenly another robot hits him. It's Trent, who stole his own robot from the ship. The Titan battle begins, and the captain starts to beat Trent. Mark hands the sword to Sua and goes to look for a rocket launcher, which he fires at the captain's robot to help Trent. Sua and Juana start to fight against the robots with human brains, but Juana gets trapped and dies. Audrey leaves the little girl to join the fight, but as soon as she turns her back, the girl takes off. She ignores the brawl that's going on around her and reaches the fallen cannon to activate it again. The captain notices and goes to finish off the girl, but Mark throws himself to protect her, and Trent pushes the captain to the ground. Trent grabs the cannon and shoots the captain, and voila, it's over. That shot sends a red light into the sky and frees all the human brains from mind control. Father and son reunite, and as Audrey picks up the girl, she names her Rose. A few months later, Rose becomes the captain of a ship they assembled from pieces of the alien ship. Her crew is made up of humans and people who got trapped in the bodies of robots, like Trent. They're finally ready to fly to the alien planet and make sure they don't come back. But the adventure doesn't end here. I'll see you in the next one. Let's go.